Hey guys, my name is Shai, and this video is for starseeds who have traveled back in time to be here right now from a very, very distant future. So what do I mean by traveled back in time? I don't necessarily mean getting in a time machine and going back through time, although perhaps that is for someone. What I really mean is that you have parallel lives, and likely this is all anchored around one future life. And you wanted to come back to the roots. You wanted to come back to the beginning and do some further contribution, do some revisions to make your reality, which is this distant future reality, to make it even better. And this is something that this future civilization of beings, and I'm going to get into more about what this civilization is, that they do, that they understand, and that they do, that they take incarnations in the distant past, and they do this as part of weaving all of their parallel lives together, and they do this as how they create, like how they multidimensionally create their own reality by living in the present and understanding that their present moment has a specific past, but also knowing that they can expand on that present moment and iterate on that present moment by going back into the past and editing things, by revising things. It's a lot like writing an essay or writing a story, right? You write one draft and you go, okay, pretty good. How can I change this? How can I go back and edit it? How can I go back and revise it? And then you go back and you have draft number 2 and you make all of these changes, and that might change the ending of the story. Or that might introduce a whole bunch of new characters, or that might just change the entire trajectory. You never know, right? The possibilities are literally limitless. Every time you go back to make a new draft of the same story, everything just evolves on its own, and you can make little changes, but sometimes little changes might have big effects, or you can just scrap things and rewrite it and make it all different. So they basically see going back and taking lives in their own ancestry, like in the distant past. I mean, it doesn't have to be so distant, but in this case, we are talking about they are in our distant future and we are in their distant past. They come back and they make these edits by living their lives differently. And if this video really resonates with you, then you can take that as a sign that you are also in parallel, like as parallel lives, living in this distant future civilization, and this life is you having come back here in order to do it again. Maybe you've done it again many times. So this very far distant future civilization, the way I've been seeing it, and I did have I was activated for this about a month ago when I was walking down the street and I was just having a really good time, just thinking about aliens and, you know, just kind of wandering around. And I just for a really brief moment, like, popped out of my body and glimpsed really quickly this just absolutely beautiful, gorgeous, golden age civilization. And that is the golden age. I mean, I just have this language, the rhetoric, if you will, of the golden age. It's just kind of coming around. You don't need to also use the phrase golden age. It's just, that's a kind of good way to describe really quickly what this felt like. I was like completely breathtaking. And in fact, once I just glimpsed it, and it was like glimpsing a city skyline at night, you know, with all the lights. But and I was just looking out at all of these stars, and the stars were forming themselves into all of these constellations. And I knew that I was looking at, like, this representation was multiple things all at once. On one level, it was a kind of like a city skyline. I was actually looking at an actual city, right? An actual city. On another level, I was looking at a bunch of light ships that were all kind of parked close to each other and organized in this constellation. In another way, I was looking at a bunch of stars forming these constellations. In another way, I was looking at a bunch of galaxies forming this constellation. And in another way, I was looking at a bunch of, like, timelines and realities and all of these different things forming these constellations. And I just kind of, you know how it is, right? Like, I just kind of understood that all at once. And I also understood a bunch of, well, I mean, just really very few details, right? But this is what I understood in this kind of flash, was that this golden age civilization, it is, like, so good. I could feel the vibration, right? It was the civilization of your dreams. It was so good. Everything was so good, right? Everyone there was able to thrive. Everyone was supported. You had, like, freedom of individual expression, but then you also had this perfectly supportive and, like, wholesome collective community. And it's made up of, like, thousands upon thousands, like maybe even hundreds of thousands or even more different species, like just intergalactic species, right? Because this is like a very, very intergalactic civilization and made up of all of these different species. And within every species, there is just so much diversity, right? Within every single species, there is all of these different cultures. And one really kind of thing that I thought was cool that they showed me really quick is that even though this is incredibly distant in the future, humans, as in us, as in, like, Homo sapiens from Earth, we are still there. And we're there, like, slightly artificially, because this is so far in the future that, you know, evolution has kind of, like, humanity has evolved off into many, many, many different branches, right? But apparently there's like a group of beings who wanted to maintain the ancestral human form. And I'm thinking that these humans are probably a little more evolved than we are, like, in the year 2024, right? But we could still look at them and go, oh yeah, they're us, right? They're humans. They're just like us and we're just like them. It's all, you know, we're all basically the same. And they're kind of kept in a museum of sorts. Like, they have good lives and all of that. And the souls that take on incarnations as these, like, ancient ancestral humans take on those incarnations for very, very specific purposes. So it's like a little thing that they've kept alive because there is at least some interest in this human ancestry, which I just thought was kind of an interesting thing to see. Anyway, and so when and where is this Golden Age intergalactic civilization? It is in the galaxy that forms after the Milky Way galaxy and the Andromeda galaxy merge together. So in terms of Earth years, right? I mean, billions of years, right? This is very, very far in the future. I'm not even going to bother with numbers. I can't remember them off the top of my head anyway. So far in the future that, you know, our solar system probably wouldn't exist anymore, and nothing that we would know would really exist anymore. It's incredibly far in the future, to the point that, you know, we have, like, our Milky Way galaxy has collided with the Andromedan galaxy and become one new unified super galaxy, and everything is totally different, right? And really cool thing about that is there is this whole, so it's like, yes, on one level we're tuning into this future civilization, this golden age civilization, and yet there is this parallel theme going on about the merging and the blending of Milky Way energy and Andromedan energy, which, again, if this video is really resonating, that's going to be something you are integrating inside of yourself on your own journey right now. Because I've noticed that it's not uncommon for starseeds to, like, resonate some Andromedan heritage, but it is typically difficult for us to kind of access that and really understand like what that is. And that's because it's literally a different galaxy, right? You know how do you ever, like, you're walking around the house and you like, oh, I gotta go get something, so you go into the other room, and then as soon as you go through the door, you can't remember what you got? That's an actual, like, thing with the brain, right? When you go through a door and into a new room, you've left the compartment of memory, and like that memory of what you're trying to find, it's actually like left in the other room. That's why when you walk back into the other room, oh, you remember what it is, and then you can go get it. So if you know, rooms in your house affect the energy that you can tune into, just even in terms of like, where's my hairbrush, right? Imagine how different the energy is in an entirely different galaxy. And I will take just a minute to describe one important thing, like what I consider the most important thing to know about Andromedan energy as compared to Milky Way energy. Andromedan energy, so let me start with the Milky Way energy is about, we expect in the Milky Way, we expect our environment, our physical environment, to more or less be predictable and remain the same, and we actually anchor into our environment, because even if you're in a very turbulent and chaotic environment, you still expect it to be more or less the same, right? Like, that rock is still going to be there tomorrow, that tree is going to be there tomorrow until someone cuts it down or it falls down, right? Like, you can walk down the street and you mostly, even though things change, right, you mostly expect things to basically be the same. And we really, you know, maybe you can really feel into how much you really depend on the static nature of your environment. And that is a huge part of why we struggle with change, and why, you know, every time anything changes in our environment, and we tend to like be like, right? Andromedan energy is completely different. Completely different. It's in the Andromedan experience, the external environment is constantly in flux. It is constantly shifting to the point where they have and because of that, they essentially have no dependence on their external environment, right? They don't anchor into it, they don't depend on it, because they know it's not something that is static. It's like, it's hard to describe, but like, maybe imagine a cartoon where you're walking down the street and everything around you is just constantly changing. Like, the tree is growing and then disappearing, and then the road was going left and now it goes right, and everything is just constantly like evolving and moving and growing around you, as if it's like the ecosystem and the external environment is more, it's more alive, it's more dynamic, it changes and it shifts. And that gives Andromedans this really beautiful power to anchor into their own selves, right? To know that, okay, I am my own rock, I am my own anchor point, I am the only thing that I really can hang on to, because everything else is just constantly changing. So really interesting when you put those two energies together in the new super galaxy, where Andromedan and Milky Way energy are now melded and now one galaxy. That is honestly, I think, probably very, very healing, and brings about an entirely new level of stability, because you have now, it's like, now we have balance between the inner reality and the outer reality. Now we have blended back together that, like, the outer stability, right? Knowing that you should be able to feel safe and secure and depend on your environment. And then also the inner stability of knowing that it doesn't matter what's going on in the environment, because you are your own stability. You put that together, and now you have like massive potential. Like, that is a huge foundational thing, right? Now we have, maybe that is the recipe for the golden age, right? Maybe that is why this intergalactic civilization can so thrive in that energy, because it's balanced, right? It's like, it's unified. It is so unified. Okay, 14 minutes in, I think that is my preamble. That has basically been the energy I've been stewing on for a month, wanting to share, wanting to do this video on. And so I guess just before I start drawing the cards, a slight bit of housekeeping here. Because I know one of the last things I said before I took a month to make this video was that I wanted to post every week on this channel, and then I've actually been so busy with private readings that I simply haven't had like any energy left over to make these YouTube videos, which is kind of a pretty cool problem for me to have. But I do want to post more often. I don't know when that's going to happen. So I will say that if you want more regular content from me, I am doing new moon and full moon videos. So that's 2 videos a month, you know, every 2 weeks on the moon. And it's $8 a month for a subscription. And it is a really profound energy work container to accelerate the evolution of your consciousness. Link down below if you want to check that out. So yeah, it starts at $8 a month for 2 videos a month to get more regular content from me. We got Mountain, Paladin of Earth Guardians. One thing that I forgot to emphasize is that this distant future, intergalactic, golden age civilization, even though it is a golden age, right? They are truly living in a golden age where there is like peace and health and happiness and harmony and everyone is thriving. That being said, it is important to note that it is not perfect, right? But I mean, or what I would want to say is that it's perfect, but it's not flawless. That is how I've been feeling this lately, that perfection does not mean flawless. That you can have a perfect moment, you can have that golden moment, and that doesn't mean that it's flawless, right? A golden moment or a perfect moment has things in it that are flawed, right? That are less than perfect. So it's not about perfection. It's never about perfection. Perfection is the very rare, like whenever I talk about this, my guides start showing me something very specific. They're actually like, they see perfection as kind of like I don't know how to describe it. They see it as very cold, right? They see it as cold. They're like, well, you can have perfection, but is it really what you want? Because perfection is cold. It's very cold. And they just show me like this piece of like clear ice. Like perfection is like a piece of ice. And so, I mean, you can like a piece of ice. I like to put ice in my drinks, right? But that's kind of how they see that. Like, this is what you get when you get perfection. You get a piece of ice. So they don't really, they don't see, and what guides am I talking about? I'm talking about the golden guides, which you may have heard me talk about in a different video. They are quickly becoming my like absolutely predominant source of interdimensional communication, and they are saying, like, for them personally, they're like, you can pursue perfection all you want and that's up to you and you do you, right? But for them, they don't see it as something worth pursuing because you just end up with ice, and that's not what they're looking for, right? They're looking for richness. They're not looking for ice. Number 33, Autonomous Initiator. These cards are still new. They need lots of shuffling. Oh, this is really funny. So the mountain energy, Paladin of Earth Guardians, that is the Milky Way energy of, you know, being able to depend that, you know, you wake up every morning and that mountain's still going to be there, right? Because it's a mountain. It ain't moving anywhere. But then this is the Andromedan energy, the Autonomous Initiator. That is this energy of like autonomous movement, right? Autonomous movement, autonomous beginnings, autonomously and independently just doing whatever it is that you're doing. Not completely irregardless of anything else. It's like you can still, and likely still would like to consider your environment and consider others while you're going around your autonomous business, but it's like being the match, right? That sparks the flame. It's about okay, so no, they don't want. Okay, let me get more cards. Yeah, I think you can feel this, right? It's just this energy of autonomy and initiation, about you beginning what you want to begin, you doing what you want to do, you creating what you want to create without sitting around waiting and depending on outside forces. The Star Nursery, Ace of Portals. This I'm seeing, I mean, this card I'm sure means very many things. I'm seeing this actually as the core of the galaxy. I was going to say the core of our galaxy, the Milky Way, but I think in this context it's actually referring to the core of the future super galaxy. Okay, I'm gonna just let these three energies hang out, right? We've got Milky Way, solid environment energy. We have Andromedan, solid internal energy. And then we have galactic core energy in the center. So I'm just gonna let that hang out. I'm gonna get some other tarot cards. I mean, these cards from the Unveiling the Golden Age deck are technically tarot cards, but they're like so abstract. It's almost like I don't know how to put them into words. When I use them for myself, I mean, I've only had this deck for a couple of weeks. I just sit there and just feel into the vibe, because it's like it's non-verbal. That's actually something that I have been, I feel like I need entirely new language, right? I need entirely new language. I need new words, new ways of saying things. Because part of my personal life mission is to articulate the inarticulable, right? I have this 8th house Gemini moon, and when I'm doing tarot readings, that comes straight out of my 8th house Gemini moon. This is me in Gemini space. But it's in the 8th house, so then it's in that depth, Scorpio depth space, tuning into all this interdimensional stuff. And I have this obsession with always coming into refining the way I articulate. And I know I will never get to any perfect state of articulation, but it's just, I find joy in the process of trying to articulate it better and better and better, and just kind of going on an internal process of refinement of how I use language. But I feel like I'm running out of words. I'm feeling like I need new words, but the problem is I can't really just make up new words, because then I would need to explain to everyone what those words mean. It's honestly, I feel, because language is this communal thing, right? Language, if you use it just by yourself, it doesn't really mean much, because I'm using language here to communicate with all of you, right? And I feel like I'm waiting for humanity to catch up linguistically and to get on this next level of vocabulary so that we can all have more effective conversations, but we don't have the words yet. And I think a little bit of this frustration is coming through with words, because actually it's coming in from this future civilization, this golden age intergalactic civilization, because there I have access to more and more appropriate verbal communication. I mean, I could just speak light language, right? Which sometimes I do. I've actually been drawing light language a lot lately. But for whatever reason, that's not been a big thing for me. it's just because for whatever reason, for me personally, part of literally why I'm here is to communicate, is to translate things to the human mind. Like light language tends to bypass the human mind, which is so valuable and so important and absolutely perfect. But sometimes we also need to communicate directly to the human mind, and it's to like chill the mind out, right? Especially when we're talking about all of these weird things. And the mind is just inside of your head, you know, like doubting and screaming and criticizing and being just a general negative Nancy, right? And so it can really, really help chill the mind out and help all of us get on the same page if we can communicate these abstract concepts, if we can communicate them verbally and as simply as possible to the human mind, instead of bypassing the human mind. That I see so much value in that. And I mean, that is my bias, because that is one of my like life missions, right? Is to communicate to the human mind and with the human mind. Even though I always talk about dropping out of the human mind, right? So it's both. You need to know when to drop out of the human mind, and you need to know when to use the human mind and to communicate to the human mind. So I think, you know, I've been talking all about my own kind of struggle here, but I think this has some level of relevance to most of you as well. I'm laughing because I had a whole thing with this card yesterday. Okay, so yeah, this next message is going to be shifting gears slightly. Let me get a couple more cards out. Queen of Air, that is that sharpness of mind. We have the Owl. This is air, minded energy. This is Three of Water. This is community and heart-based emotional connection. But specifically, I want to talk about, or do I? There is kind of a thing going around at the moment. I don't know how much I want to entertain it. I'll just say that there are like energies kind of rolling around right now at the time I'm filming this, and probably also when you're receiving this video, that they're trying to, I mean, whether they're trying to, I don't know if it's like trying, right? Because I see these things as just ambient energies, like literally like noise that kind of ricochets around the universe, old leftover energy that is going around, and then we pick up on it, right? And it can manifest as ways, and so it can really manifest as someone or something trying to do something to you. But really, it's just this noise that we pick up on. It's a vibration, right? And these vibrations are essentially trying to keep us down. They're trying to, I mean, trying, right? Maybe they are, maybe they're not. Maybe it's just happening incidentally. But trying to keep us down, trying to make us doubt, and trying to make us fear, and trying to make us think that something that would actually be really empowering, something that would actually be really frequency raising, something that would actually help us experience our own golden moments. They're trying to make us think that we shouldn't do it, right? Really easy. Like this card is talking about, I mean, this card specifically isn't really about this, but I had a whole experience with this card yesterday. And so my guides brought this card out to like make sure that I discuss this in this video. So it's kind of a tangential thing. So, you know, the easiest example here is how, like, the easiest example, okay, would be money, right? The thinking that money is really, really evil and bad, and that we shouldn't try to have money in our lives, that we should take, you know, that we should just live without money, and that we don't need money because money is bad, and trying to get money is bad because it is materialistic, and, you know, the only people who have money got money by doing bad things. I mean, that type of thinking can keeps you poor, right? And being poor keeps you down, and that lowers your vibration, and it keeps you in the struggle. And yet there are spiritual ideas, right? Ideas that seem spiritual anyway, sometimes touted about by spiritual circles or spiritual teachers about how money is, not something that you should be pursuing in this life. And of course, there is like a healthy way of pursuing money, and then there are like unhealthy ways of pursuing money. And I'm sure you don't need me to describe what those are, right? But, so this card is essentially flagging to our attention those kind of thoughts that tell you, oh, money is bad. If you want to be spiritual, you shouldn't have money, or you shouldn't try to have money. You shouldn't even want money, because wanting money means you're not spiritual. Those type of ideas. And there are tons of those ideas, right? Like ideas like you shouldn't ever drink any alcohol if you're spiritual, because drinking alcohol lowers your vibration and it's a poison and it's bad for your body. Well, I mean, it is a poison and it is bad for your body, but you know what? You can still be spiritual and you can still drink alcohol, like if you want to, right? If you feel like that's something that is reasonable for you to do, you can do that. And there's nothing wrong with that. And it's not going to destroy your spiritual journey or make you any less spiritual. Whole long laundry list of all of the different things, like, and it could be different for everybody, right? This could be coming up at some point in your life. Like, even like, and this probably isn't really relevant for most of you now. I wouldn't imagine, but that there are some religious traditions that, really focus on like sexual purity and chastity, all of that kind of stuff. Like, don't have sex because having sex isn't like religious. All of those so all of those, right? Now you guys know what I mean, right? All of those different things. This is kind of pointing to that. So you might, around this time, you might have some of these vibrations kind of come up, and just be aware of them, right? Just be aware of them and go, wait. Is this thing, is it actually something I should avoid? Is it actually bad? Will it actually lower my vibration? Will it actually harm my spiritual path? Blah, blah, blah. Or maybe it's actually totally fine. Maybe it's actually totally benign. Or maybe it will even be really, really good for me. Maybe it will actually catapult me into my new reality, right? Just feel into it, right? There's no like one solution. There's no one answer here. This is simply be aware of those type of thoughts that could really potentially be holding you back, and could be, they're like old leftover energies, right? And instead focus on the fact that, you are here to thrive, right? You are here to thrive in the physical. You're not here to reject the physical body. You're not here to escape the earth. You're here to thrive, right? You're here to thrive in every single area of your life. And, it doesn't matter if you're not thriving in every single area of your life right now. That is the path, right? The path of thriving, And you just keep walking that path, because you will eventually get there. And you know what? You're already living, right? That's the thing. You're already living in this golden age civilization, in this beautiful, 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 just sublime, oh, so perfect, but, perfect with flaws, right? Perfection does not mean flawless. So this imperfect perfection, you're already living in this reality, in this, parallel future reality. You're already there. So that's why it doesn't matter if you're in this life, if, if everything is not perfect right this second. Just keep striving for thriving, right? Striving for thriving. And if you're doing that, right, if you are striving to thrive, then you're on the right path, right? Then you're on the right path. Yeah, and the fact that we got this really water-heavy emotional card and this really air energy-minded card, talking about the balance of heart and mind, the importance of balancing your mind and your emotions. Let's see, what else wants to come out here? Ace of Swords. This is just the imagery on this just makes me remember something I was thinking and receiving. That's the thing, right? Lately, okay, so this this one card just brought everything to the table here. The universe is a brain. Right? right? Like I just looked at this knot, right? We have all of these strings, all of these knots, like this rope, right? And I just remembered what I was thinking yesterday about how the universe is a brain. The universe is a brain. Like, do you ever watch space documentaries? Where you can see all of the when they zoom out and they show you a representation of all of the galaxies, right? And then there's the intergalactic filaments, which are like the little like strings of dust and gas that connect the galaxies together, right? So even the galaxies aren't completely isolated. They do have these little roads that go between them where particles and energy are passed between galaxies. If you zoom out far enough, what is the universe? What does the observable physical universe actually look like? It looks like a brain. Right? It looks like a brain. And I remember even when I was an atheist, right? So I didn't believe in souls. I didn't believe in anything outside of the physical, right? I only believed in what was physical and observable. And I remember I used to like watch space documentaries and I would think the universe is a brain, right? Like the universe itself must somehow be conscious. And I was thinking about this like really just physically, right? I was like, if the human brain can somehow facilitate consciousness, how much more consciousness does the brain of the universe have, right? And of course, so, now where I'm at now, I think of this on this whole other level. The universe is a brain, right? The universe itself is conscious. Just, I don't know, something to think about. But the other message here was, because I said, I was thinking about this yesterday. I was thinking about how the universe is a brain. But it was funny. Lately when I say I'm thinking, I always wonder, like, am I really thinking? Is that really, like, am I thinking that? Where do my thoughts come from? I mean, because I do have this understanding of, like, when I am just sitting there thinking about, like, the groceries and the laundry and all of that stuff. And then like a message comes through, right? And a lot of the time I can really notice, okay, that was a message. That was something I received. Because it feels different, right? If I can like feel the thought coming in, I can feel the thought coming down. And so there is a difference. And I think I just kind of answered my own question, right? So I guess what I meant to just bring up here is discerning between your own human brain's thoughts and receiving like the celestial thought, right? The higher thought, the downloads. And so on one level, we could talk about how to discern, like, is that my thought or is that a message? But I feel like that's kind of more basic, and I don't really think you guys like need a discussion of that so much. There is a deeper thing here where it actually brings up, and I don't have any answers on this. I'm just kind of exploring the problem. This kind of it brings up problems of ownership, right? This problem of ownership. If you download an idea, and maybe it's something that you can implement. Maybe it is to design a skirt. Maybe it is to write a novel. Maybe it is to make a movie. Maybe it is to post a picture on social media. Like anything that you can actually create with this idea, right? Is it really yours? Like if you downloaded it, if you received it, and what if someone else receives the same idea and then goes out there and does it? And this is how you get people who, like in history, there's lots of examples of like two different inventors or something inventing the same thing independently, and they sometimes go to war about like, I invented this first. No, I invented this first. Like I think calculus, right? Newton and Leibniz in Germany. We normally, like at least in the English-speaking world, we think that Newton invented calculus, but then there was also Leibniz who, I'm not an expert on the topic, but as far as I'm aware, they both independently invented calculus, right? And of course, I would see that as, they were obviously both receiving inspiration to kind of bring calculus into the world, right? And they both received that at the same time, but as far as I'm aware, I could be wrong, as far as I'm aware, it was independently, right? Neither of them was copying the other. Maybe they were ultimately learning from each other, but it started independently, as far as I know. So that kind of thing, right? And I think this particular topic is going to come up like a lot over the next 20 years, because Pluto's going to be in Aquarius, and that I see this as an Aquarian type of theme, right? So issues around copyright and patents and just, you know, fair use of copyrighted material and all of that. And I don't know like why this is coming up. What a weird, like, I don't know, but this is the message. So I don't know. What a weird thing to come up in this reading. I guess just to plant the seed of thinking about that. And more is definitely going to come on this topic, because this future intergalactic civilization, they have an understanding on this, right? They have an understanding on this, and they're like, it's not about getting the solution, it's about finding the wisdom on this. It's about finding the wisdom. And I suspect that this particular conundrum about, like, you know, multiple people downloading the same type of inspiration at the same time, and then possibly even implementing it at the same time, and kind of arguing about who owns the idea, right? Who should be credited for the idea. All of this, right? Copyright and patent issues, that there is a deeper level of wisdom here that I don't know about personally, and humanity obviously doesn't know about, but it is available. So I don't know. I guess that is just something that's on the docket. It's possible. Very probable. It's very probable that there are at least a few of you watching this who this is going to be like a particular thing that you chew through, right? A particular thing that you chew through, trying to understand and come into this deeper level of wisdom about how to properly value and credit every individual for what they have contributed. Because it's like, if an individual receives an idea and then shares it, that deserves credit in and of itself, just because they did it, right? But then also balancing that out with not overly limiting like freedom of creativity, freedom of speech, freedom of expression by having like overly draconian copyright and patent laws, right? There's a balance that needs to be struck here, and I have no idea what that is, how to do that. But that is going to be a big part of humanity's next level of understanding. And I don't know. so, but some of you might know. Some of you might be going to be finding that out. Okay. It's going to require like some like shifting of some basic assumptions, but then also shifting like how we compensate and credit people and how we value contributions. So there are a lot of like really fundamental base level shifts that are going to happen before this balance like can come into play, right? It's like the system that we currently have, like our current copyright and patent systems, are going to need to be like entirely overhauled. But that's not going to happen unless and until we can fundamentally shift our basic assumptions and viewpoints around that entire topic. So I don't know. I don't know, guys. That's probably the weirdest message I've ever gotten in a tarot reading. Oh, wow. Perfect. So the card we got is Tending to the Future. Tending to the future. Because remember, right? What is all of this about? If you came back to this distant primordial past, and isn't that funny? Because so often as starseeds, we are looking into the galactic past, right? And we see Earth as like, oh, you know, I've been on this crazy long soul journey to get here, and all this stuff happened before I even came to Earth. And yet this is what I'm always saying, like, Earth, this isn't the end, right? Like, Earth is not ending, this is not the end of your soul's journey. I know a lot of starseeds are like, no, this is my last life on Earth. I'm never coming back to this horrible place. I want to leave Earth as soon as I possibly can. Like, fuck this place. And I've been there, right? I remember when I first had my starseed awakening, I was in, like, horror, okay? Like, this deep, horrible terror It was just all consuming. I was afraid that I was going to be stuck here on Earth, essentially, like until humanity was ready to ascend or something like that. And I just like, I had this idea in my head that I'm stuck here until humanity gets its shit together. And it was like horrifying. I was terrified. I was like, oh my God. And you know, that is very far in my past experience now. And what I will say is that, yes, so virtually all starseeds go through this experience of absolutely hating being on Earth and finding this place like being, you know, entirely detestable, and I just want to leave immediately and I never want to come back, right? What I will say is that for the vast majority of you, you will be back, and you will be back because you choose to come back, and because this is it. This is the place to be. This is the absolute place to be. This is where everything is kind of going down, and it is exciting, and this is a place where you can thrive. And so when you're just try to recognize the phase, and I'm sure some of you are already past this, right? So there's a whole spectrum of where we're at on this, but the hating Earth and the struggling to be here and just wanting to leave and never come back, that is a phase, and that is a phase of healing, right? And that is something that needs to be healed, because you cannot even begin to thrive on Earth if you're still just wanting to leave it. So that is the healing phase, right? And eventually you get into this place of, oh, no, I actually really want to be here. I am choosing to be here. This is where I want to be. And I'm going to keep coming back because this is, why would I want to be anywhere else, right? Like, this is the best place I could possibly be. Because it allows me to grow and expand and to be challenged. And because I'm an infinite cosmic being that desperately is always seeking out the next greatest challenge and the next opportunity for growth. Why would I want to just sit around like singing like an angel for all of eternity? I want to do that sometimes, obviously, but I can do that for as long as I want, whenever I want, for all of eternity. Down here on Earth, this is where shit gets real, and where things are fun, and where we learn what it really means to be alive, right? So yes, right? Coming into that place of actually loving to be on Earth, that is a very, very important step. And when you get to that place, then you know that everything is going to start just shifting for you, just like it's a whole new beginning, right? So my point on this is that Earth is not the end, and this is not the end of Earth. This is the beginning, right? This is the beginning, because we are looking into a future so distant, and you are already anchored into this distant future because you are already there, right? It doesn't, like, your lives are all happening in parallel. This is the best way I know to think of it. You know, a future so distant, our galaxy has collided with another one, right? Tending to the future. So, and I think this is going to this is going to mark an important shift for a lot of you, just this whole video, where you're kind of moving out of that space, that mindset of kind of tending to the past, where you're kind of, you know, doing your healing, right? Because when we're looking at the past, we're typically doing that because we're healing something, right? And starseeds have had just a total shit ton of stuff to heal. So I think by the time you're getting this video, you're going to be shifting into this tending to the future, looking to the future, and thinking, how can I build the future? How can I create the future? And beginning first to create and build your own personal future. And that could be literally like building yourself a sandwich, right? When you build yourself a sandwich, you are building your future. It might be 2 minutes from now because you're going to eat it, but you built a delicious future for yourself. So you can start that small, right? Like, you know, for some of you who are kind of really in the struggle right now, you can start building your future by building yourself a delicious sandwich, and then really enjoying every bite of that delicious sandwich. Maybe you want to buy like the fancy mayonnaise, right, to make that sandwich extra delicious. And then you can go from there, right, until you get building really big. And then, you know, ultimately you can be building the future for, you know, maybe you have a business that can ultimately support multiple families or an entire community. And but even like that is relatively small, because what we're actually talking about here is you are building this intergalactic golden age future. That is what you're actually doing with everything that you do in this lifetime. And it is like, just you can all glimpse this. You can all tune into this, and you don't need to have an experience of popping out of your body to see it. That's cool and fun to have, but honestly, it doesn't need to be that way. You can just feel it, right? Feel it. Feel the energy of this intergalactic future, right? Feel the energy of the golden age. Come up with a phrase that you like better. Come up with a way of understanding this that resonates more with your view of the universe, right? Just tune into this future, tune into your future. Tune into your future that feels so fucking good that you're just like, yes, 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 yes. Find the future that makes you go, oh my God, this is so good. It was all worth it. That is the future you want to find, right? That is the future you want to feel into. That is the future you want to tune into. And I mean, shit, that could be something completely different than what I've been describing here. The point is that you want to find and walk towards the future that will make you go, when you get there, it was all worth it. Every single step of the journey, all the blood, sweat, and tears, all the dark nights, all the losses, it was all worth it. It was all worth it because all of that built this. It was all worth it. That feeling of it was all worth it, that's it, right? That's it. So find that feeling, walk towards that future, and one day you'll be standing there thinking to yourself, it was all worth it. I'm going to leave you guys there, sending you so much love and light. I'll talk to you later. Bye.